Joining me now, Alfredo Ortiz. He's the president and the CEO of the Job Creators Network. Alfredo, great to have you, man.
Hey, John, how are you? And I don't mean to gloat, but I think I got this one, and I can't wait for that dinner. So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, you were right, and even I was already planning the dinner, like when Ann was going to go.
I mean, you were already having ice cream. I mean, I think you were already having dessert.
It was over, but what a turnaround for Biden. But I tell you what, I got to play this Maxine Waters clip. I got to get your take on it, Alfredo. Bear with us a second.
Sure.
Carol, let's get to cut 6. Maxine Waters says, I don't know if Biden has what it takes to beat Trump. This is Maxine, a man on the street interview, cut 6.
Biden and Bernie compared.
It's not about who you like. It's about now watching and understanding who can beat Trump.
Do you think Biden has what it takes to beat Trump?
I don't know, but we'll see.
President Trump has made an issue out of the gaffes on the campaign trail. Biden has confused a few things out there on the trail. Do you think he has the fitness for office, Biden, and to take on Trump?
Nobody has made more gaffes and told more lies than the President of the United States of America. How dare he talk about somebody's gaffes? There's a whole litany of those committed by him. So how dare he try and say that Biden somehow has done so many and so much when he has absolutely had hundreds of gaffes and thousands of lies.
Always great to get your Maxine Waters fix just to stay grounded, Alfredo, kind of in the AOC category there. But what do you think of Biden? I mean, I know you predicted he was going to be the nominee, but, we tried to fight a guy yesterday at the auto plant. What's going on with this guy?
He tried to fight the guy and told me he was full of, what. It's interesting. Look, I mean, I have to tell you, I think, the Democratic Party realized that Bernie Sanders, there was just no way that this country would ever put a socialist communist in the White House. I mean, I think they came to that realization, and you saw the Michigan numbers. I mean, Biden blew away Bernie. I mean, like 15 points or something like that. And, but the thing is, in all seriousness, Biden may be, a gas machine, but, we've got to be serious about what this coronavirus is going to do for the November election, the economy. I'll be honest with you, at the beginning of January, I was feeling pretty good overall because the economy is looking great. We are going to have a slowdown, John, and there's no doubt about that. And that is going to impact the November elections. Now, what really kills me, though, is what the liberal media is doing with President Trump. I mean, with President Trump right now, there is no way that he was going to win, whether he moved left or moved right or, forward or backwards. I mean, no matter what, he was going to be skewered in the media. And I keep telling all my friends, whether they're conservatives or liberals, I'm saying, what would you have expected him to do? Because they're saying, a lot of people are saying, oh, he's not showing enough urgency. And then they're saying, oh, but he's showing too little urgency, right? Like not enough. He's too calm. He's too urgent, right? He's doing these things. He's shutting down borders. Again, either way, he was going to lose on this one, which is what really sucks. He really did the right thing. He saved us from really a true outbreak in this country because we got to put things in perspective, John, and this is why I want to make sure we talk about, is that, yes, there are 30 cases now, I think 30 deaths in this country. I think 19 of them are all related to that nursing home in Washington State. Mm-hmm. So when we put things in perspective, I think the last count that I saw from flu deaths, which doesn't, I don't want to sound insensitive here, but I just want to put things in perspective. I think 88,000 people died from the flu this flu season. And so, again, we got to be vigilant. We got to be, take precautions, but be calm and make sure that we put things in perspective, right? The president has done the right stuff here. They all got in his case because he shut it down. The borders from China, people coming in. Frankly, if you think about it, you really go back, what happened here is the CDC, a bureaucrat, the CDC, let that plane come over and unload Americans without the knowledge of the president. Mm-hmm. So, so these are the things that, we need to address. And, and I'm going to tell you right now, John, that I think the Democrats are going to take this opportunity. It's kind of like a page out of Rahm Emanuel, right? Don't let a good crisis go to waste. They're going to say, look, this is exactly why we need more federal government in our healthcare system, for example. And what I say to that is that what people are looking for is actually coordination by the federal government, but not control by the federal government. And we got to make sure people understand that, right? And that we don't allow the Democrats to take this opportunity to basically say that you're already seeing them do this with like parental leave, right? Like right now they're saying, hey, you know what we should do is extend parental leave, give more unemployment, right? All the little things that they've been trying to do. They're going to try to use this medical emergency really across the country to leverage that to get their way on this stuff. And we got to make sure we don't allow that to happen.
You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network, Trucking the Truth Across America. We are with Alfredo Ortiz. Alfredo is the president and CEO of the Job Creators Network, the big engine that was a little, now is big that can, not could. What you've done with the limited resources you have is probably one of the biggest untold stories in this whole environment. And you can go to jobcreatorsnetwork.com. Also go to healthcareforyou.com. Speaking of healthcare, Alfredo, I want to get right to that. Still to this day, the president, the administration, doesn't have a health care plan as part of their campaign going into 2020. You know that Biden is going to make the expansion of Obamacare and the public option key elements of that. A lot of people complaining the president doesn't have one. You've got one. It's called healthcareforyou.com. Best plan that I've seen. Everybody that sees it says, wow, this is the answer. I'm trying to get this in the Republican platform at the convention. As you know, I think I'm going to be successful in doing it. But why can't we get this adopted by the Trump administration now?
You know, well, we're working on that, right? And we're hopeful that we're going to progress on that. And we've got a lot of support across, you know, governors, state insurance commissioners, attorney generals, people in the House and Senate, you know, who are seeing this and are exposed to it, are feeling positive and supportive of it. It's a process, and it seems to be so much harder, frankly, with our side than the left. You can see how everybody kind of over basically a 48-hour period signed up right behind and lined up behind Biden because Obama called them and told them to do so. Maybe it's the free-spirited, you know, free enterprise-minded folks that we all are on the conservative side, but it's hard to corral people together around one idea and one cause. And the thing about healthcare for you, and we're really excited about it, we did, as you know, John, research amongst thousands and thousands of American voters out there. It's probably one of the largest healthcare studies that has actually taken place out there. We work closely with Tom Price, you know, as you know, he's, you know, almost 30 years in public office, HHS secretary as well. He says it's one of the biggest, most comprehensive studies he's ever seen, and one of the best things ever that we've had on our side. And what it clearly shows that the American public clearly wants changes to our current system, but they want personalized healthcare, John. They don't want centralized healthcare, right? And this is exactly what, you know, our Healthcare for You plan does, because we believe it is about personalized care. It's about your health, your doctor, your wallet, your choice. And so basically this sets up the framework for what I call conservative healthcare reform across the country. And it allows and looks at the actual implementation system as well as we move from federal back down to state. Because at the end of the day, again, we don't need more centralized healthcare. We want personalized healthcare. And, you know, when you look, we just came out of a survey this past weekend, and we asked small business owners, for example, over 700 small business owners. So it was a great survey. Almost 70% of them, by the way, said that they really thought the handling of the economy, by the way, by President Trump was good or great. But that over 70% of them believe that actually almost 80% of small business owners that they would prefer a healthcare system that's rooted in the free market system over government-run healthcare. And so we've got to remember that, right? So the people who are actually employing people out there are looking for a system that continues to, move on the private healthcare system versus this public option. And, you know, Biden is going to try to slip this one by the American public, you know, and I'm calling it Biden care. But it really is just about single payer. It's just one step closer. We have a great analogy that we came up with the other day. It's like the express train versus the local, right? Both were going in the exact same way, which is single payer. Mm-hmm. Medicare for all, which is Bernie's plan, was just getting us there a lot faster, right? And he was at least open about it. Biden's plan, which has been the Democrats' plan all along since Bernie Frank, you know, two decades ago, basically, was that this public option was just one step closer to the single payer. And we know that single payer really leads to disaster for all. And so, again, they were leading to the same destination, just a couple different stops to get there with the Biden plan. But we're excited about healthcare for you because it's all about protecting the patient-doctor relationship. And if you look at the exit polls that have happened over these past few weeks here, John, and I know you've been looking at them, healthcare continues to be the number one issue, especially among suburban women. And so we need to make sure that this plan gets out there and that people realize that we can have a plan and that we do have a plan to address the concerns of the American public. That one, by the way, does protect pre-existing conditions and provides quality and care and choice and brings down costs. Because guess what? As we introduce innovation and we get the government out of the system and we allow that innovation to thrive, that pushes up quality and drives down costs. And we know this to be true, and we've got examples after examples after examples at the state levels where Republican governors have been able to figure out and work around the fringe, the edges of Obamacare to allow for that innovation to exist. And we see great examples across the country. What we need to do is unite this and make sure that whether it's, the AI folks or the heritage folks, that they understand that it's about the collection of great ideas that revolve around free enterprise and healthcare, that this is what the Healthcare for You plan does. It provides that umbrella kind of program and marketing approach for the American public to truly understand, because we can't just keep selling what I call the ingredient statements on the back of the label. We got to sell the vision, John. We got to sell what people can look at and believe in, what I call the front of the label, right? Mm-hmm. We keep trying to sell the back of the label and these ingredients and talk about 1032 waivers and all this stuff, which is just
nobody
all
knows what that
talk.
means. Yeah, nobody
knows what that means.
You're so right.
You're so
right.
So we got to sell the vision, John, and that's what Healthcare for You does. We encourage people, to go on there, look what we're trying to do. It's really, again, an all-encompassing, I think, umbrella strategy to market the great ideas and policies that so many of our conservative minds out there are thinking, but just can't sell to the American public. And this is about helping the American public understand what we can do with personalized health care versus what the government plans to do with more just government control.
No, look, you're absolutely right, Alfredo. And we lost the midterms in the blue wave and lost the House and went through impeachment, all because we couldn't articulate a health care plan for the American people that made any sense or they could understand. Paul Ryan destroyed the whole thing with whatever crap he had. They all lied to us. So we've got to come up with one. And basically to say, Obamacare doesn't work. I mean, we tried that. It failed. You need an alternative healthcare for you.com. Healthcareforyou.com is that. Yeah, you got him back with Alfredo Ortiz, President, CEO of the Job Creators Network. Alfredo, so the president taking some pretty bold steps yesterday to stem the potential decline in economic activity. President, separately from that, we got a 50 basis point rate cut from the Fed. Jerome Powell, president said not cut enough, but I liked it. It's a start. That always helps. He's also, we've got a stimulus package coming in. There was a number of other things that the president has done with Congress. So we're trying to do something. The oil prices are going to even out. I mean, the Saudis can't keep it at 20% cut forever. So with some of the steps the president is taking, and with the coronavirus perhaps ebbing, the panic abating, what happens in the economy?
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, I'll pick off really quickly with the price war between the Saudis and the Russians. I think that will, ultimately fix itself. I mean, thank goodness, the president picked up the phone and called the Saudis and said, "What the heck's going on here, guys?" I mean, I thought you were an ally, right? I mean, because that kind of price war really is going to hurt our frackers across the country. They can't maintain this kind of price point, for too long. And this is probably what Russians really wanted anyways, right? So, to take us out, because right now, as you know, we're energy independent. And so this is probably exactly what Russia wanted to do. So I'm glad the president had the big boy pants to be able to make that call to the Saudis and tell them what's up. And you got to stop this. So that was important there, and hopefully that will level off. As far as the rate cut, that was great. I think I can probably see another half-point rate cut coming around the corner, March 17th next week, I believe is what it is. We got to do it. Bank of England today just took another half-point rate cut. So, most of the world now is either at zero or negative.
Right.
on their rates. So, we're still non-competitive from that perspective. That makes it difficult. And then the bold step on the payroll tax. I think we got to do it. And yeah, it's a big concern possibly for those deficit hawks out there. But I'll tell you, taking the economy into a recession is even worse in terms of what it could do for all Americans. And this is where you do hope that folks can put their their partisan swords away on this one. A payroll tax makes a lot of sense because it helps on the consumer confidence side. What I would like to see, though, is the payroll tax holiday for all employees. And then on the employer side, we, as you know, John, we're big believers in business overall, but huge believers in small business as the backbone of our country. So to try to kind of balance the deficit hit there, we would love to see it for employers of 100 employees or less, which is really the small business community where 2/3 of new job growth exists, and give an employer holiday on that as well. So the full 12%. Employer for small businesses is what we would like to see, 100 employees or less. So I know President Trump is looking for all of it. Our belief, though, is big businesses can actually handle and have the wherewithal to be able to withstand this kind of a shock. But small businesses, they in many cases live day to day, week to week. As you and I both have had small businesses. You currently do have a small business. You know what it's like.
You're spot on. We need the payroll tax cut made tremendous sense, but it needs to be businesses as well, evenly across the board. And the other thing so that's critical because we need more hands in the pockets of people. That's why you cut the payroll tax. You also need to cut it for the small businesses, and I think it should be 100 or under because you're right. Goldman Sachs, it doesn't matter to them. Bank of America, it doesn't matter to them. Caterpillar, it doesn't matter to them. But it's the little companies that matter. So that's number one. I'm 100% with you on that. The other thing the president did, which was really smart, is he juiced liquidity for credit markets for small businesses through the SBA. Brilliant move. So he wants to be sure that small businesses have access to credit so they can continue to borrow money to finance growth, which then finances jobs, production. You have to buy things, order things. I mean, that's only because the guy ran a business, right?
Right,
I mean,
right. Absolutely.
None of these other politicians understand that. I mean, they look at liquidity. They go into big meetings, and you got the Federal Reserve in there, and you got, you got the Goldman Sachs people, and they're talking about, Wachovia Bank and some of the big five. But what Trump did, he said, look, we need to expand liquidity for small businesses. We're going to do that through the SBA. We're going to give additional funding for them so somebody that's got 30 employees or 3 employees can go buy something. I mean, he understands that.
Right. Yeah, that's right. The only thing I would say to that, John, we got to make sure that the bureaucrats that work within the SBA and that actually handle these loan applications and processes, you don't take the traditional 3 to 5 months for approval. Because I'll tell you this much, the small businesses may not have 3 to 5 months, right? And so that's where we got to make sure that the approval processes are also there in place to make sure that we've got expeditious approvals, 24, 48-hour approvals. We got to make sure that happens as well because just having the money available doesn't necessarily mean that the loans will be made. And we got to make sure that happens. And by the way, we also need to help our hourly employees because, for example, at a franchisee, take a Burger King or whatever, those are locally owned businesses, and hourly employees don't have the luxury of going home and doing work from home, right? They can't telecommute because they're just not there, right? And so we got to figure out how to help those hourly workers as well because when you take small business owners, their employees, and then hourly workers as a whole, that is probably the most vulnerable sector of our economy right now.
Alfredo Ortiz, spot on once again on the economy. Plus, wins another bet from John Fredericks. We're taking him to dinner. Joe Biden, Democratic nominee. Bernie Sanders, done. Always good to have you, Alfredo Ortiz.
Thanks,
go to healthcareforyou.com. That's healthcareforyou.com. Alfredo, thanks for being with us.